8 p.m. Okay. Alright, hi everyone, welcome to the stream. My name is Lee, he, him pronouns today. It is disgustingly hot and humid here, and also my tongue is blue because I was eating, my tongue is blue because I was eating, blue raspberry, ice pops, because it is disgustingly hot and humid. Okay, so that's a thing. I'm gonna just Argo. There's a really, really cute young bird named Argo. Alright, we are doing a thing. We're gonna post in the thing with the thing. Sorry everyone, I tend to leave things to the last minute. One of the things I leave to the last minute is posting and telling everyone that I will be on stream so they can come and join us, and I am doing that now. I know some days I get very good at it and tend to post before I come live on stream, but I don't like to start the streams too late, so if I forget to post, we're going to move you over there for now. What I will then do is post while I'm streaming, which is a little bit uncouth, I know, but, yeah. Okay, so, I have here my main tools as Robo character creator, author, essentially. I'm working on, right now, a short story. I don't think it will be done in time. There's a contest on a platform called Vocal about a heart-shaped locket and dystopian fiction, and I'm about halfway done with my story for it, and the deadline is tonight at midnight Eastern time, so I don't think I'm going to make it, but it's got me writing again, so I'm probably going to finish the story anyway, because, and I decided I was going to stream anyway, even though I could work on the thing, because I'm having trouble concentrating on writing, and honestly, I don't like to, I want to be, I want to, if I'm going to stream, I want to, unless something comes up, I want to, like, stream, you know what I mean? I know certain other streams were canceled today, and so I feel bad saying that, because I know sometimes you do have to cancel streams for pretty legitimate reasons, but right now, I don't, and honestly, I'm not going to finish that thing on time, and I should have done it earlier, but it's helped me. I hadn't written anything in too long, so it's helping me get back into old school just writing, not just GMing and plot points, because real deal writing is slightly different, and I haven't in a while. But I might do a writing process stream if you guys are actually interested, if someone's actually interested. But in the meantime, we're doing tabletop RPG character creation because it's cool. And I'm going to go there and do one more thing. Welcome, and we're going here. For those of you who don't know, I can put the thing up. Give me a second. I'm going to put up the, that one. So I'm going to take the dice cam off for now. I do have some new dice. I want to show them off. I also have a new D10 that I cannot use because my mother took it. But she actually was enjoying rolling it, so I felt bad. When other people enjoy shiny click-clack math rocks, I feel bad taking away their dice because I like it. And I know the fans going in the background. If it becomes annoying, I can shut it off. But It is also really hot here, and I don't want to turn the air conditioner on because a number of reasons, but mostly I'm just stubborn, and this fan is actually pretty good so far, so it's, we'll manage. So yeah, sorry, I know being able to see my binder's uncouth, but it's a thing today, so. Oh, right, so, Rogue Trader, as indicated there, is a Warhammer 40k roleplay game. So Fantasy Flight Games, back in the early 20-teens, I guess we can say that now, it's new decade. It's never not going to be weird. Okay, it'll take a few years for it to not be weird anymore. Essentially, what they did is they created this role-playing game, right? So Warhammer 40,000 was a spin-off of Warhammer Fantasy, which is now Warhammer Age of Sigmar. There's a lot of historical thing, and basically they created a sci-fi equivalent, and then came up with all this really cool lore to go with it. The really cool lore was, well, a lot of it didn't make a lot of sense. It's complicated and lore heavy and really, really cool, and I loved it. I loved all the lore. So I was super excited about that, and, that's about best that's gonna happen. Anyway, what, in any case, I enjoyed the lore, and I found out about this, but I didn't find out until early last year. Let's see, March, so pandemic was it's like May of last year, so almost a year ago now. I'd been a Warhammer 40k lore enthusiast for years, and I started reading the expanded universe novels, and I was super into them, but I never got a chance to really roleplay, and then I was going 5th edition, and I finally found people to play with, and I dusted off my own GM hat, and then I found this, and I was super excited about it. And then, because I was on a forum, and I mentioned, I kind of want to rework the Warhammer 40k setting for Dungeons & Dragons, like, they made a game like that. I'm like, wait, what? So I go and I look it up. Quite interesting. I find Rogue Trader. I'm super excited about it. And then it turns out, I start looking through Fantasy Flight Games, hoping I could buy a copy, and it turns out they officially stopped publishing it in 2017. They lost the licensing. They can no longer sell it. I managed to get my hands on a copy, a PDF copy, but you can't buy it from them anymore, so, it's sad, because it's a great game. And the other ones are good too, I've heard. So, it's a little clunky, but it is super fun, and Warhammer 40k roleplay is so much fun. It's like, so I don't even like the game as such, because the Warhammer 40k is generally a strategy game played with minis, and I bought a bunch of the minis, but I don't, I have yet to paint them, but I put them together, but I couldn't get into the whole idea of just, like, setting up the minis for a tabletop battle. Like, it didn't seem cool as learning about the lore and stuff like that, so this is way, way cooler. Rogue Trader is a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. I actually named McVenner here, my steering buddy, after a character in one of the expanded universe novels for Warhammer 40k called Gaunt's. The series is called Gaunt's Ghosts, and it follows the group of soldiers from the 10th, 1st and only regiment, and they are the coolest. So McVenner is also like a super chill. He's one of the scouts and the most skilled after McCall, and even I think he's more skilled than McCall. But McCall's the leader of the scouts because he's like better leader quality. It's hard to compare the two. Anyway, he's cool, and a vibe, and I named my fish after him. So I actually named anyway. So Warhammer 40k is cool. There's a lot of lore in the world, but I generally like to do character creations for Rogue Trader. I did one earlier on this stream. I went with so they have this whole cool, extremely cool setup where they go. They have what's called the origin chart. I will let me bring it. I think, haha, I have it that I can just bring up. Origin chart, origin path. Here we go. Sorry. Hi. Here I am. Okay, so basically you either go. Oh, you can't see my mouse, but basically you either go from the top row and pick one of them, and then, or you go from the bottom row and pick what's called a career path, which is, sorry, there we go. It's a little weird, but it allows you to see me and the chart at the same time. It allows you to, so basically your career path is what your, what position you occupy in the ship, and what, you know, that kind of thing. Sometime, I think it was last week, I did a special episode on this, and then another one on the world building for Janthine's Homeworld. And so, since I like doing character building, so basically what you do is you choose the first row, and either the first row or the bottom row, and then what you can do from there is the official rules state that you can you go up to either the one directly to below it, or the one the option on the next row down, either directly below the one above or to the left or to the right. And the same applies. So you either go up or down, and you go, okay, so it's hard to explain, but basically what you do is you have to pick a path. Your choices for each row have to form a path, and each stop along the origin path gives you mechanical benefits and backstory relevant stuff, and it kind of sets you up with a backstory, and then you fill in the particulars, and it just kind of makes sense. And it does specify that at GM's discretion, if you have players who are very familiar with the lore, you can allow for non-contiguous paths, or do other things if you find it too constraining. But it's suggested that you do it as a path. And when I did Janthine, I was just like, all right, let's do it. Let's see how it works. And we did randomly going through the path, which ended up with an explorer who was not born on a Forge world, which I think is really interesting. And then we came up with all of this really cool world building for Visceria, which is her home planet, and Terras Vitalis, and the old ruins, and all sorts of cool stuff. And then we went back to Pathfinder, a completely different world and a completely different system, to create a couple more characters for that. But I was thinking for tonight, if everyone's up for it, and if you guys really, really want to go back to Pathfinder, I'm not terribly objecting to it exactly, but I kind of want to do, another trek through the origin path. So there are two ways I could do this. We could start rolling randomly a d6 for the homeworld, and like we did last time, and then we ended up with a hive world, and then roll. I've been rolling the fudge die. Here, give me a second. I will. Fudge die are these ones that have the plus sign, minus sign, and two sides with minus sign, and two sides with the blank. They basically serve as d3s. I also have some ones that have Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3 on them. I don't have them on my dice tray right now, though, but I could go get them. But I usually do the fudge die for the d3. So how that works is you make your way, you roll randomly, make your way down the chart. So basically you pick one from the first row, and then you have 3 options. Or what we could do, which would be something I haven't done on the channel yet because I've only done one Rogue Trader thing, but it would be interesting to try, is go from the bottom row up. And you can't see, but I'm gesturing at my screen at this chart here. But we could go from the bottom row up. Pick a career path, which is basically the closest equivalent is a class in, say, 5th edition or Pathfinder or a lot of other tabletop RPGs. Basically, career path leads you to have it basically sets up your progression, what skills you can learn, what random extra bonuses you get, and other things you can, and sets up your role on the ship, and then from there it goes on. Last time we ended up with an Explorator, and then we kind of bent backwards with her backstory as to how she ended up, because she'd come from a hive world, not a forge world. So what I could do is pick someone else on her ship and go up the chart, rolling randomly, and then see where they ended up coming from. Or we could, so we could set up, or for her shipmate, or we could go back down the chart manually. And they talk about what's called intersections. So if you end up having the same you end up going through the same box, you can choose that to be the same event. So for example, if you both went to press gang, you can say, oh, we were both press ganged by the same person, and then served together, and that's how we know each other, and we ended up on the ship together. It's where if you both go through Hand of War, you would say, okay, we fought together in the same unit, that kind of thing. It's kind of interesting to help kind of flesh out relationships between characters. It's just suggested, but it is an interesting piece, and I think a lot of DMs would do better to have. Well, there's a theory that a lot of GMs should try to convince their the players to have the characters at least vaguely know each other before the party gets together, because that way it kind of transitions into adventuring a little more smoothly. But either way, so I'm gonna, you know what? We're gonna start rolling randomly for a homeworld, and then we're gonna go down the chart, and I'm gonna write up the origin path. Then I'm gonna roll for gender and sexuality, and then come up with a name, and then fill in some details. If we get Hive World again, we could do the same Hive World. We could, if it's a different, if we got something else, we could create. I could do world building on the home world for another stream, and then we could go back to figuring out Claude's Gang and more Pathfinder. I think that would be a fun way to do the streams. But yeah, I'm thinking as I'm setting my schedule up, I should do one or two streams per week that are Warhammer, and 1 or 2 that are Pathfinder, so I could switch it off. I think that would be nice. I'd like to do that. So we'll see how people like it, and if I get a day job, obviously my schedule is, well, we're going to have to change up the streaming schedule, but I figured I should at least start to create something of one, which, figuring out what time I stream on Wednesdays, and then applying it next Wednesday, as well as this Wednesday. So why don't I bring this down for now? Well, hi. Okay. Here we go. Back in frame. So, sorry, I'm going to try to get my voice low. I know it's distracting and hard. Yeah, voice dysphoria is a thing. Anyway, so that's fun. What we're doing is, we're gonna, alright, go through the thing by starting with a d6. Alright, so I'm going to start with the origin path, and move over slightly. I'm going to roll a a d6. Right, so here's, okay. So, because of my setup, I cannot do the origin path and the dice cam at the same time. So, we're just gonna figure out where's the, no. It's just important that the be highest. I know it sounds silly and superstitious, but you keep your dice with the highest side up, and they roll well for you most of the time. Sometimes they don't respect you and they just roll badly, but you know, it's okay. Alright, here. We're gonna, no, that's a d20. We're not using d20s today. In fact, the entire Warhammer game is all d10s. There's occasional things where it's like d5, but it's just you take a d10 and cut it in half. I do have an actual physical d5. I rolled it for a Warhammer game once or twice, but not for anything else, but what, we're going to need for this one is a d6. I'm going to use the blue one, because I like the blue side. We're going to put you over here. Kind of scooch, scooch, scooch. Right, and we're going to need a fudge die, and yeah, we only have one of the dice trays, so we're using that one. Scooch, 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 and yep. Okay. So, now I have my dice set up. I'm going to roll a d6. And we're going to go origin path. I'm going to write this down. That is the key of world building and character creation and anything, is to always write stuff down so that you do not forget. Because if you have a really good idea and don't write it down, eventually you're going to lose it, and it's just like, oh well, now I don't have a cool idea. So here's how we play this. We're going to roll the d6. Yeah, we're going to roll the d6. Then consult the chart. And go from there. 2. Okay. So we lock this up. Voidborn. Okay. I can work with that. So Voidborn. And I'm gonna read the book and kind of go over a little bit about the lore, about what it means in the 40K, the 41st millennium. It is lore heavy. There's a lot of stuff. So, and I'm not an expert by any means. I do love my lore, and I know more about it than most, but there's a lot. Rogue Trader posits that the characters are rogue traders. That is to say, they have a warrant of trade granted by the Imperium of Man. The Imperium of Man is a large empire spanning great majority of the Milky Way galaxy, run by the God Emperor of Mankind, centered on Terra, formerly Earth. God Emperor of Mankind was just a regular human who once tried to propagate atheism when he was alive, which is kind of ironic, and then he was almost killed and put on life support, and due to phenomenal psychic powers, which he was one of the first psychers to emerge, although not the last. Psychic powers became fairly common after the fall of the Eldar. Which was well after humankind had taken to the stars. But he was one of the first to develop them, and he, after the fall of the Eldar, which was an alien race, it screwed up what's called the Warp, which is a whole secondary realm where thoughts manifest as reality, and it's kind of adjacent to our realm, and by traveling through it, you can go faster than the speed of light because time and space get wonky in there. Which is all well and good, except that it's also, if you look at the thoughts of, well, anyone, any sentient race, there's a lot of violence and ugly stuff, and that kind of coalesces into these 4 big chaos gods that are the embodiment of evil, really. And they try to corrupt, they make themselves stronger by corrupting humans, and they also corrupted the Eldar, and actually the 4th Chaos God, Slaanesh, was born of the Eldar's corrupt society, and the Dark Prince, She Who Thirsts, and that caused a whole bunch of problems. But it also made warp travel impossible for a couple hundred years, and that plus the emergence of Psychers, plus an AI rebellion, all at the same time, kind of destroyed the early human empire, called the Dark Age of Technology. It's apparently a lot of stuff from there is much sought after because it's higher tech than anyone has now, but or in the 41st millennium, now being relative. So as rogue traders, you go out looking for, toward the edges of the Milky Way galaxy, looking for planets that were conquered during the Dark Age of technology and have lost contact or regressed or had other things happen, so they're humans living and don't know about the Imperium of Man. Also, the Emperor's continual worship by the humanity and psychic presences, the warp, is the only thing that allows one of the few things allowing the safe navigation of large chunks of the warp. So it's actually crucial to the survival of the Imperium, fun fact, which is kind of, but the Emperor, clinging to life as he is, but with his strong psychic presence, fed by everyone believing him to be a god, can occasionally do things like manifest miracles and things to help defeat all of the alien forces that want to kill us because we were trying to kill them because the orcs tried to kill us. They're actually another species that it did not. The first meeting between humans and orcs did not go well, and after that, it kind of tinted mankind's view of all Xeno species, which was tricky because a lot of them just wanted to exist and then got genocided by humanity. But there's a lot of ones who genuinely do want to kill humanity for either because humankind screwed them over or because they just wanted to for own personal reasons, like the orcs of Dark Eldar. And so it's kind of an ugly. And then there's forces led by those corrupted by the Chaos Gods who want to destroy the Imperium as well. And there's just a lot of misery and suffering, and the 41st millennium is not a fun place, which is basically they had to come up with a way that any faction could potentially end up fighting any other faction, including itself, and have it make sense in lore, so they made it a grimdark future. The term grimdark actually comes from Warhammer 40k. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And, sorry, my poor computer is... let me do a thing very quickly for my poor suffering. I'm gonna do that. I know it seems unconventional, but you can all still see me, yes? Okay, cool. We're just gonna run the video like that to kind of do better on to get better access to the fan of this computer, who's starting to overheat a little bit. Bailey is a workhorse of a computer, but high metabolism and which computers, the way they convert energy and power to run themselves is requires a lot of energy, and that and high heat in general do not mix well. So we're trying to do what we can for. Oh, right. So now that I've lore dumped all of this on you, and believe me, there is way more lore than that in the 41st millennium and this whole thing. But that is just the bare bone basics of what Rogue Trader is, which is you are specially gifted with permission from the Imperium of Man to explore outside the Imperium's bounds, and you might find Xenos, you might find humans' lost colonies, you might find old abandoned worlds with archaeological sites that have tech from the Dark Age of technology, you might find, who knows, demons, and which is manifestations in the warp of the worst evils of humanity and other sentient races that can enter real space if they invade Psyker's mind, which is why that's such a big thing. Yeah, so you will find all sorts of crazy stuff and defeat them, come out on top, push forward the goals of the Imperium of Man, open a pizza parlor on some planet, because that my Rogue Trader group ended up doing that, because they ended up on this planet and helping a general find her brother who was lost in the warp, and then that led to other dealings with other people on this planet, and then that led to them tackling a criminal gang in the Underhive and trying to reform them all by starting a pizza parlor, because I actually have a video series on YouTube, fun fact, called That Time in Rogue Trader, where I try to explain the plot of this whole game. I haven't updated it in a while, but so they haven't gotten to that part yet, but I do, try to make it interesting, because it's a really funny story, the shenanigans they get up to in the 41st millennium. Oh, right. So, after lore dumping all of that on you, and I'm going to bring up the origin path chart, and we are going to say, okay, so Voidborn, for birthright, we have Scavenger, Scapegrace, or Stubject. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the book. I'll read you what Voidborn is. That's what I was going to do. Ambition knows no bounds, and the D10s. So, essentially, yes, and then there's generating characteristics. So, my plan, characters in 40k have what's called characteristics, which is weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, agility, intelligence, perception, willpower, and fellowship. They serve the same purposes as strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma do in 5th edition D&D or Pathfinder, or other systems have other stats that they use. Basically, it forms a basis for how, there we go, forms the basis for what skills you're good at and what skills you're not. So when I did Genthine, I rolled for characteristics after I'd already rolled up on the origin chart, the origin path, and did that. So I'm going to do the same for this one, I think. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. So after I set up an origin path, and what I'm going to do is roll for characteristics, and then we'll see how good she is. There's different ways of doing it. I'll walk you through some of them and explain the methodology while I do that. In the meantime, I'm going to pop this down, and okay, so I'm going to read the options and kind of elaborate on this a little. Yes, characteristics, and then it has the chart, and then it has a list of all of them. Death World, Voidborn, here we go. You were born not on one of the Emperor's worlds, but instead on a vast ship in the depths of space, perhaps even in the warp itself. Why this set you apart from your fellow man is unknown, but the way you look, act, and think is somehow different. You have been raised in the company of voidfarers and psychers, and what other men fear or loathe is commonplace to you. Not merely star travelers, but the product of many generations passed in the darkness between worlds, the Voidborn are relatively few among the teeming multitudes of humanity, but singular, and from a disparate and odd collection of misfit strangers and other ill-omened folks, perhaps birthed in the belly of a vessel that has spent centuries charting its course through the stars or aboard an ancient orbital satellite. The Voidborn are often considered to be somehow touched by the taint of the warp, or at least associated with the many unfathomable dangers of the utter darkness by the common well of the Imperium. Most consider them to be bringers of bad fortune and ill tidings, secretive and untrustworthy. Most of them are pretty chill, but, you know. The vast Imperial fleet is a vital factor in the maintenance of the Imperium. Without it, human worlds would be isolated from each other and left unprotected. Without it, trade could not exist, and weapons could not reach the Emperor's armies, and world after world would fall into darkness. Space travel throughout the Imperium is dangerous and arduous. Most interstellar travel is undertaken using powerful ancient engines that push a vessel into the Immaterium, also known as the Ethereum or the Warp. Within the warp, a ship can cover many thousands of light years within a relatively short time, dropping back into the Materium far beyond the ship's starting point. Some parts of the warp, however, act as powerful vortices that drag helpless vessels to their doom. There's also constant danger of turbulence, warp storms, and loops. Ships can be thrown thousands of light years off course or trapped in stasis forever. In the warp, there is neither time nor distance, only the constant flowing stream of the Immaterium. On board a ship in the warp, a single month of time may pass, yet in the material realm, anything from 6 months to several years may elapse. Fleets responding to distress calls and supply vessels on long voyages have been known to arrive months or even years too late. Those who live their lives on voyage ships become inured to some extent to the reality-altering process of warp travel, to living in lower zero-gravity environments and never knowing the feel of solid ground beneath their feet. Some vessels never make birth, their crews instead raising generation of families in the cold depths of space where gravitational variance, radiation exposure, genetic distortion, and warp anomalies slowly take their toll. What true effect these taints have on individual Voidborn humans is uncertain and varied, but there is quite quite evidently something strange about most of them. In many cases, their features are drawn and their skin pallid. They may have minor deformities or an oddness of speech, gait, or general appearance that sets them apart from others. Some, although outwardly normal, carry a strange air about them, perceptible something not quite right about them that makes others uneasy. Some Voidborn are raised on... Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm still in frame. Raised on huge station, asteroid mining installations, battlefleet, Calixis refit stations, or machine cult research platforms. The majority come from a variety of backgrounds aboard an active star vessel, but the issue of crew of merchant vessels, be they the issue of crew of merchant vessels or warships, miners, scavengers, prison guards, or prisoners, or even the servants of a rogue trader. The largest Imperial void ships are vast, city-sized crafts, many of which are thousands of years old. On such huge star vessels, lobotomized servitors and tech adepts move through their mysterious business, whilst menial crew, passengers, and merchant guilders coexist in crowded vaults, lonely quarters, and corridors, and cramped quarters. At the right hand of the ship's lord captain sits a navigator, one of the strangest looking breed of psychers who expertly guide the vessel through an immaterium, following the psychic beacon of the Astronomicon, which is the Emperor, for those of you who don't know Warhammer 40k lore, the Astronomicon is the Emperor's psychic presence in the warp that keeps all the ships on course and allows relatively safe warp travel. Still very dangerous, though. Those Voidborn raised in the service of the Imperial Navy or amongst the crew of rogue traders know firsthand the horrors of space and the sheer multitude of the Emperor's enemies. This knowledge often forces voidfarers of the low decks to insular crew brotherhoods, afraid to look outward from their duties, or small societies for fear of what might be lurking in the void beyond the hull. So that's every, and the ones for the home worlds are the most detailed of all of the descriptors in the book. The other steps along the origin path are relatively short comparatively, but also interesting. So, because this is where most of the lore for the Imperium that's found in this book comes from, and they wanted people to be able to play the game without knowing a lot of Warhammer 40k lore, so this is where they lore dumped, which is actually really interesting, I find, but, yeah. Okay, so now there's Voidborn characters. You've called the interior of a huge Imperial vessel or void station your home all your life, but now you've been thrust into the company of others, people completely unlike your peers among the Voidborn, and the culture shock gnaws at you. You feel awkward in the company of those born on one world, an outsider, distrusted and strange in their eyes. You come into your own when your expertise is required, however, and what to others may be stark terrors or old familiar enemies to you. Unlike the world-born, you are not blinded by ignorance when confined with psychic phenomena, warp anomalies, and the strange technology of void ships, and such your kind make the best voidmasters and astropaths. As long as common dirt dwellers stand in awe of fear of you, they will cease trying to make you fit into their strange cultures and leave you to your own ways and your own secrets. So, then it lists all of the mechanical things. So we got -5 strength, but +5 willpower. I'm going to write this down. So when we do, I'm going to keep a track of all of the things we get from the various beats on the origin path, and then combine them at the end when we roll characteristics. So -5 strength, +5 willpower. Starting skills, language, unique. To home vessel. So speak language, ship dialect, skill, charmed, preternaturally lucky. So whenever the fate points, so charmed, fate points allow each character is gifted with a certain number of fate points that they can use per session or per day in time, depending on GM preference, to reroll any check that they make. There's a few other things you can do with them too, but basically it allows, because rogue traders are naturally a little bit luckier than everyone else, and because the game can be difficult, it's a little extra cheat, extra something that you get, essentially, in the number of fate points you get. But Voidborns get an extra bonus where if used, roll d10. Like I said, this game is all d10s. Occasionally percentiles, so d100s as well, which are basically just 2d10s. On a 9 you get the fate point is not used. So you get the reroll and still get to keep the fate point for another reroll. You can gain fate points through various endeavors as kind of experience rewards, and burn them permanently to get on greater things. It's actually quite an interesting mechanic. But yeah, so we got Ill-Omened. Alright, my roommate's coming back. So another property of Voidborns. Whether because of their strange look, clannish ways, or unwholesome air, the Voidborn are shunned and mistrusted by most. In addition, the Voidborn are most likely to attract negative attention that the party of explorers creates. Acquisition of deceit and trade, disgruntled negotiators, mobs armed with stones, and so on. Because of this, Voidborn characters suffer -5 penalty to all fellowship tests, with non-Voidborn NPCs. Okay, then we got Shipwise. Birthed in the depths of voidfaring craft, the Voidborn have a natural affinity for such vehicles. As a result, navigation, stellar, and pilot spacecraft are basic untrained skills instead of advanced skills, which means you can make the check untrained at a penalty for Voidborn characters. Okay, so navigation, stellar, which is an intelligence skill, and piloting spacecraft, which is agility. There's also pilot water and land vehicles. Okay, so those are untrained basic skills for Voidborn, which is interesting. Oh, sorry, I almost lost my notebook down. Okay. Oh, hey, we got someone new popped in. Hello, welcome to the stream. My name is Lee, he, him pronouns today. I realized the camera's at a weird angle. I'm doing what's called Rogue Trader, which I have up on screen, as you can see. The book, it is a RPG put out by Fantasy Flight Games, although they discontinued it in 2017 because of copyright issues. They lost the licensing rights to the Warhammer 40k property, so it's still pretty cool. I'm basically creating a character who, so far we have, is Voidborn, which means they were born on a starship, rather, and probably like generations of living on a starship. They get also, I don't know if it says it here, but it might say it, if immune to, it's the next one after Shipwise. Immune to space travel sickness. In addition, low or 0 gravity environments are not considered difficult terrain. So, untrained basic. Okay. Those are untrained basic skills. Due to their strange and natural childhood, immune to space travel sickness. Zero G is not difficult terrain. So that's fun. Also, you can absolutely say hi in the chat. I welcome people to do so. I love having other people, I'm not just... I do love creating characters, and absolutely if you just want to hang out and watch, that's no big deal, but I do like interacting with people as well. So if you want to say hi, by all means do so. Yeah, so we're going to go and... okay, starting wounds. So wounds basically... are how tough characters are. So when a character is hit, there's not a damage, and then the characters take remove damage for any armor they might be carrying, and there's a 2-hit location, and how much armor they're wearing in each location is determined that way. And then they remove their toughness bonus, which is the 10s digit of their toughness score, which is that's one of the characteristics, which is the way stats are rolled in this game. And then after that, any left over is taken as wounds, and if you have as many wounds as you do, you start taking, like, serious damage. NPCs die at that point, but player characters have, like, a whole list of things that go wrong depending on where the extra damage hits. And once you get to a certain point, you're just dead, and they take longer to recover from, and other things. So, yeah, that's the wound system. Sorry. So starting wounds, double their starting toughness bonus, and then add 1d5 to the result. Now, we don't know our toughness yet, because we're going to roll the characteristics after we get through the origin path. So, I'm going to roll a d10. And it's, so when you roll, if I remember correctly, let's see, I'm going to put the d10 there, in my dice tray. Actually, let me, hi, oh, hello, welcome, Fraley. I'm just doing Warhammer 40k character creation, but we don't have stats yet because I'm doing the origin path first. So, and if I went over something in the beginning of the stream and you're confused, just ask in chat. It's totally cool. Welcome, Voidborn. Okay, so, for wounds, rolling a d5, and let me bring up the dice, because dice are cool. Boom. Okay, so I'm going to use this d10 here, and it's divide by 2, but round up. So, yeah, because a 9 would be 5, because it would be rounding up, yeah. So, and a 1 would be 2, because it's rounding up, yeah. So divide by 5, round up. Oh, okay. That was a 10 on the d10. Alright, guess the dice do like me. Okay. In which case, let me just do that. Oh, nope. I want to keep that up. In which case, the wounds would be 5, because it's d5. Yeah, absolutely. You're always welcome to pop in anytime. I generally do, well, I've wanted to do another Warhammer for a while, so I'm thinking I'm going to do them on Tuesdays. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I do Warhammer, and the rest of the days I do Pathfinder, or... I'm not sure yet, but definitely for now. Probably tomorrow as well. I'm going to do another Warhammer stream. So, yeah, but absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. What was the thing? Oh, yes. So, that makes 5 plus doubles. So, wounds is, I'm going to put this here, is, and then when we roll the characteristic bonuses, we can add in. So, it's 5 plus 2 times starting toughness bonus. So we'll fill that in when we get our stats rolled. Now, is there anything else from before we move? Forge World, Hive World. Starting wounds, starting fate points, which talked about fate points earlier. They can be used for rerolls and to get characters out of sticky situations. And the characters get a certain number per session, which is determined by a d10 roll. Roll d10 to determine Voidborn characters' starting fate points. On a 1 through 5 begins with 3 fate points. On a 6 to 10 begins with 4. So, let me bring up the dice again. Boom. Okay, what is it? Alright, don't move it. 8. Oh, no, 8. Okay, so, that's an 8. Okay. Because I can't see, because the way the lip of my dice tray is, I couldn't see the dice roll. I can only see it on camera, which is a little weird. Okay, but 8. Which 4 fate points. Okay. Some of the other things in the origin path tend to skew that, but we'll start with 4 and go from there. And I think that is the Adeptus Mechanicus, yep, the Forge Worlds. Okay, so if we go back to then take off the dice cam and bring up, if I move over here a little bit, and then I can bring up, ta-da, the chart. Oh, alright, good night. Of course, night-night. I'll talk to you in the morning probably, because we'll both be on the Discord. Yeah, so there's that. The origin path chart. So we started out as Voidborn, which means under the rules what we'd have is Scavenger, Scapegrace, and Stubjack. So Scavenger is pretty self-explanatory. It means you grew up searching through other castaways, cast-offs to find useful things. Scapegrace is kind of con men, entertainers, people who work and serve and kind of make their way that way. And Stubjack is mercenary. Basically, you started out as mercenary and went from there. Each has its own unique listing, and it's broad enough that you can kind of tweak it to fit your exact origin story. But they each have a few mechanical benefits. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign plus, minus, plus, we're going to go left to right, and we're going to go plus 0 minus, plus blank minus. So if, I'm going to pull up the thing. So if it's a plus, we get Scavenger. If it's a blank side, we get Scapegrace, and if it's a minus, we get Stubjack. Oh, hi! Welcome. I'm doing another Warhammer 40k stream. I believe you were on for the last one. I'm doing another, I rolled randomly for the starting world again. So we're starting with a Voidborn, this time. Someone raised in the, on ships, probably born between the void, the stars, and someone who, kind of, is a little weird for the rest of humanity, but really good at spaceships. And, ooh, yeah. Oh, the games are always fun. Yeah, I had to run a session this morning. But yeah, absolutely, we're doing fine. We're doing another Warhammer 40k creation. You're welcome to stay or go to bed, whichever, but, yeah. Okay, thanks for checking in. Oh, right, so I was just about to roll for Birthright. So I have the D3 here. So we got the Scavenger, Scapegrace, and Stubjack. And I'm going to pop this down, and so I can bring up the dice cam again. And roll for... That is, I believe, a plus, right? Let me just... Yep, that's a plus. Okay, so move that to the highest side. Which means, if I bring up the chart again... there we go. I can just leave the dice cam up and just put the chart over it. That's fine. Okay, that is plus, minus. So, Scavenger. Okay. I think we're heading toward Astropath, but we'll see where we go for that. Okay, so I'm gonna minus this out again, and I'm just gonna leave the dice cam up for a little bit. I'm gonna read what Scavenger is all about, and go from there. Forge World, Hive. Okay, so these are Hive Worlds, Forge Worlds, Imperial Worlds, Nobleborn. Alright, so Scavenger. You became adult amongst the yearning and poverty of the least of the God Emperor's flock, one soul among countless underhivers, renegades, bone pickers, and thousands of other outcast castes that exist on the fringes of the Imperium, scavenging what they can to survive. All that you owned was claimed from the waste of those far above you in the Imperial hierarchy, or gleaned from the wreckage of ashes of past war and catastrophe. At least everything that wasn't taken from the bodies of your peers and rivals, of course. Yours is a hard life lived on the knife edge, the dark abyss of starvation on one side and the death or worse on the other. A childhood where each day of survival is a triumph has hardened and honed you, but left its scars on your soul. Okay, so you get the unremarkable, so you get a talent, you either get a talent or, so you get a talent, either unremarkable or resistance to fear. I think what we're going to do is, plus 3 bonus to, okay, so, I'm going to say, unremarkable from what that'll be very useful, if we have the, minus fellowship in dealing with, anyone planet-born humans. It's probably better to be, not as noticeable. Talent. Okay. So we get plus 3 to either willpower or agility. I'm gonna go with willpower. I'm gonna push willpower. So 1d5 corruption or 1d5 insanity. I'm gonna go with insanity. Let's see. Actually, to be fair, since we're right on the edge, we're on the edge now, we only have 2 choices for the next row, so we're going to have to do evens odds, which is, it's fine. That's a d5, so what we're going to do is move you aside a little bit. We're going to do, roll the d10, and divide, and round up as per usual. 6, that's 3, so 3 insanity points so far. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to bring it back up to... So, I always keep them on the highest number. Keep your highest number up. That way, it's good mojo for your dice. And Evelyn actually said the same thing on stream, and I feel, like, vindicated, because she always rolls really well. So, sometimes it doesn't. Like, with the whole... on Friday, when I was guesting as Ethan, I had this d20 and this d20 and this d20, and all of them rolled really badly, so I was like, this one was the only one that would respect me, and all of them been stored 20 side up, so in the dice tray, because I tend to just leave a lot of these dice here. I switch them out every now and again, but anyway, so that's 3 insanity points, and I think that's the last of what you get as a scavenger. Like I said, once you get past the the Planet of Origin ones, the other segments tend to be very short, relatively speaking. Okay, so the Origin Path, yeah, so we have either Tainted or, let me look real quick. I believe it's... Yeah, we're going down the path of Astropath, although it could take a turn and head it out a little bit. We'll see what we... Criminal. Oh. Great, so we're either somehow unpure and therefore got cast out, or we are a criminal of some sort. So we'll see. Do we have a life of crime? Since it is only 2 because of the way it's on the edge, I'm going to do evens odds. Why don't we roll a D... That one. Alright, let's do this one. Yeah, we'll roll a D20. We'll do evens odds. So, I'm thinking... even tainted odd criminal? Yeah. We'll do that. Evens, okay, so we're doing roll the D20. Evens is going to be tainted. Odd is going to be criminal. Let's see what we get. Huh. I mean, you guys all saw it roll. Keeping it 20 side up does actually work. But that is even. So, we're tainted in some way. That should be fun. Let's see what it says and go from there. Yeah. Basically, this is, the origin chart is kind of like a built-in tragic backstory, where you kind of build different, because you start at what in other games that are run on the same exact same system in the same universe, you would be you start at what would be a fifth, rank 5. To when they talk about for example, the Dark Heresy game, which also takes place in the same world with the same system. So, in order to justify that, they kind of had each character have a built-in tragic backstory, and it's actually kind of cool. I kind of like it. Lure of the Void. Few Imperial citizens ever see beyond the narrow horizons of faith, toil, and vicissitudes of life upon a single world. Many do not even recognize that anything lies beyond their appointed cycle of birth, service in the God Emperor's name for as long as they remain capable and buried in the very place they lived all their life. Such is the price paid to keep at bay the corruptions that inevitably accompany freedom and knowledge. Yet there are bright sparks amongst the darkness of ignorance. It is a continuing strange miracle of human nature that from the downtrodden, planet-bound masses arise adventurous, ambitious, and sometimes twisted or rebellious souls who seek more, or have it thrust upon them by uncaring fate. It is these men and women who, through endeavor, fortune, or the turning of great events, strike off from their homeworld and set the foot on the greater stage. And why criminal? Renegade, wait, what? Tainted should be... Wanted, sub, no. Okay, hang on. Tainted, here we go. You are vile in the eyes of the holy, declared tainted by your twisted form or marked by your cursed bloodline, your strange demeanor, and heretical beliefs. Few look more closely than is needed to condemn you, fearing the contagion of evil and the judgment of the God Emperor's appointed servants. But despite excoration by the witless fools who have turned their hand against you, your soul burns for greatness. You are now search relentlessly from the place where you might attain even a small fraction of what would have been rightfully victories were your life not so blighted by fate, and the power to avenge yourself to choose on those who would see you suffer. Choose one of the following results and apply it to your character. So, so basically, yes, so this is criminal. Okay, so basically each offers, each type of YU offers 3 options, and you have to take, you have to pick one, and so it's because there's 6, it's 18 reasons why people don't like you, and the 18, so you have to end up with one of them, and so I guess I could roll for it. Okay, so there are 3 types of tainted. One is mutant. Roll on table 14.3 mutations on page 369. If you choose, you may spend 200 experience points to select one result from the table. It must be a result lower than 74 through 100 instead of rolling randomly. You get to spend a little bit of experience points right when you do character creation to tweak your stats a little bit, so that's part of that as well. Insane. Suffer from choice of either -3 fellowship or -1 fate point. Gain +3 toughness, the peer the insane talent, and suffer 2d10 insanity points. So your mental health is, at best. And deviant philosophy, +3 willpower, and the enemy ecclesiarchy talent. Basically, you think differently, and when the entire trade of anywhere between and safe travel between planets relies on people worshipping the Emperor as a god, people take this very, very seriously. So yeah, the Inquisition is incredibly powerful in the Warhammer 40k universe, like super powerful. They can do all sorts of crazy stuff. So I think I'm gonna roll it, because honestly I think that would be, in the spirit of how we're gonna do this, let's roll. And we already got the D3 and everything, so we're gonna put you over here. Just all my dice. Excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna roll the D6. We got insanity. I'm gonna put the insanity as plus, mutation as blank, and heretic as minus. So sanity. Okay, let's do it. Are we doing insanity, mutation, or heresy? Let's see what we get. Mutation. Okay. Now we have to roll on the mutation table, which is a lot of fun, and my players have been having a good time with it. Essentially, I think one of them started out with Tainted as his as their background for the origin path, and ended up with that particular brand of it, and ended up rolling. And well, alright, I'm gonna go to page 369 and mutation. Yeah, it's a little big to properly fit on the screen, but I'll yeah. Malform, Tox Blood, Hulk. Ended up alright. Yeah, I think what they did was ended up with corrupted there's one spot on the table that basically says roll 5 more times and take all of them, or 1d5 more times and take all of them. And he rolled that one on the first roll and kind of just ravaged body, 68 through 71. Means body is entirely remade by the warp. Roll 1d5 times on this table. Such mutations, regardless of their nature, still show the obvious touch of chaos. So I'm gonna roll randomly for the mutation and not just pick. So what we're gonna do is let's do it. So they usually roll on almost all the tables roll on D100s. There's another table also for weird things that happen in the warp while you're traveling, and I rewrote the table basically so that the player from the one on the book, it's based on all the events on the books, but which ones go where on what numbers, and there's a few I made up. I changed so that to Tainted Mutant. Oh, right, we did. So we're going with a mutation. Okay, let's do it. We're gonna roll it. So I'm gonna roll D100. Here we go. That's a 40. Okay. And I can't see this one. It's over here. No, it's... Where do you go? Here. Right. So I'm gonna... Yeah, that's the one. So it's... I'm just trying to be careful not to change it. It's 45. Okay. 45. Let's do it. Let's see what it says. 41 through 45. Toxic blood. The mutant system is saturated with toxic pollutants and poisonous chemicals. Plus 20 bonus on toughness tests made to resist poison versus toughness and intelligence characteristics by 1d10. Okay, so toughness down by 1d10 and intelligence down by 1d10. Should the mutant's blood come in contact with a living creature, creature must succeed on a difficult toughness test or take 1d10 points of damage that ignores armor and toughness. So it goes through stuff. Okay, so scavenger tainted toxic blood. So essentially, right. So we're gonna go with apparition, degenerate mind. Okay, wait. Toxic blood. Plus 20 against. Plus 3 willpower. Plus 20 on against poison. So the way checks work is they're made against your characteristics. So a toughness check to resist poison would be, say, okay, roll me a D100, and if it's underneath whatever your toughness characteristic is, you pass, and you don't get affected by it. So the higher toughness characteristic, the more likely you are to pass the test. What you can do is then add modifiers. So in this case, a plus 20 would be, if I were going to say, okay, you're being poisoned, roll to resist a toughness check, and they're like, actually, tox blood, and you're like, right. So you have to roll under whatever your toughness plus 20 is, which gives you a 20% higher chance of passing the test, basically. And for example, taking half a turn to aim can give you a plus 10 bonus on weapons on a ballistics test, or charging can give you a plus 10 on, I believe gives you plus 10 on your weapon skill test, but it also gives anyone attacking you in melee, a plus 10 as well, so it kind of balances out. So these little bonuses are the key of how test difficulty is adjudicated and such. So plus 20 is nothing to sneeze at. It's a pretty good bonus. Test plus 20 on poison checks. Release characteristics by 10. And difficult, minus 10. Yeah, see, it's difficult, minus 10 toughness test, which means that they have to test their toughness at minus 10 if they want to, or take 1d10 points of damage. Or blood burns for... Okay, there's this, there's that, and we are going to roll the d10s, 1d10 for each. I'm gonna do different d10s, I think, for this one. So I'm gonna put you here with your face up, and you here, and we're gonna find. No, we don't have that d10. How about this one? And this one. Okay, so we're gonna roll 2 d10s. First one we're gonna roll is the blue one. Let's roll the blue. And this will be for intelligence. So I believe if it says this, tox blood, toughness and intelligence. So for intelligence, we get minus 8 intelligence. And we get minus, how many tough? 4. Minus 4 toughness. So that's interesting. Okay, so that's the mutation. Then we go all the way back to the top, and it's for shipbuilding and all sorts of cybernetics and all sorts of cool stuff, weapons and armor. Yeah. Okay, talents and skills, and there's a lot of stuff going on. Okay, so this is all the career paths, which we don't know our career path yet because we don't know. Okay, motivation. Here we go. So trials and okay. So after, so if we go back to the chart, let me just show you. Boom. So we are tainted. We're going down the edge of the chart, which means that there's two ones. We could either be have gotten caught up in the hand of war, which means the war Imperium is at war on 99 fronts on any given day. So probably more than that, and dozens of Imperial Guard troops and Space Marines and Adeptus Sorrestas and just hundreds of different things, fighting many different enemies of mankind, internal and external, all the time, constantly. So a lot of Imperial citizens get displaced and thrown around by war. So it's either got displaced by war or press ganged, meaning dragged by someone, either the rogue trader you're working for or some other high-ranked an Inquisitor or Imperial Navy. Anyone with a decent amount of official power can just press gang people, or even criminal gangs can press gang too, if it's just not legal. So if they get caught by the Inquisition or the Arbites, they can be, thrown together. But yeah, so either they got caught up in a war or they get dragged into it. Which one is it? And we are using, let's roll. Okay, we're gonna roll. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about Imperial lore or, who all these organizations are and what role they play, I'll do my best to answer them. There's a lot of Imperial lore, so, and I find creating characters helps, run through it a little better. But, if you have any questions, let me know. Not many people are watching right now, but that's okay. Yeah, so we're going to roll a d10. Evens or odds. Even, I would say evens for war, odds for press ganged. Yeah, even war, odds press ganged. Let's do it. Even war, odds press ganged. Even. Hand of war, which means we're going straight down the line to become an yeah, we're going straight down the line, essentially. We're maybe a Voidmaster, but most likely Astropath or Arch Militant. We're limiting our choices. That's okay. Sometimes people do end up going down this line. This is the origin path we're on. So, Hand of War. Painted to Hand of War. Yeah, Genthine's was a little more zigzaggy than this one, but, this is very straightforward, kind of. It's okay. So, Hand of War. Let me read what it says about Hand of War. Painted Renegade. Okay. Rogue trader characters are cut above the rest of humanity, whether by dint of sheer talent, raw energy, dark fortune, or plain will to survive. They have prospered where others have fallen and been raised up to the status they currently hold. Such individuals are not simply the product of their background and training, but also of those experiences they have endured, experiences that have forged them into what they are where others around them were broken and destroyed. The following brief descriptions offer a series of trials and travails an explorer might have endured after launching into his career, and the details and effects of these experiences on him for both good and for ill. The precise details, such as places and names, are left deliberately absent for each player to fill in the blanks and create his own unique background and story. Like I said, this origin path is about a built-in tragic backstory. The player may either make up his own detailed history alone or decide in concert with the GM. Intersections on the Trials and Travails line of the origin path are an excellent way for disparate player characters within the same rogue trader crew to have come into contact with each other and become allies in the past. When making selections from these Trials and Travels, it is important to note that they not note that all the traits below are received. So not like the previous line where you only get one. It's you get all of it. So Hand of War. The Imperium of Man is racked by war and violence, whilst beyond its borders the strife and conflict is even worse in many regions. Not all wars, however, are equal, and you were caught up in bitter and terrifying campaign in which starships were left as burning hulks and cities were blasted to ruin in a vicious series of battles that saw no quarter asked or given. The war and the enemy you fought to the death has had a profound effect on you, and to the present day the faces of the dead haunt you still when you close your eyes. Now you'll count only those who have fought and bled with you as true allies and will never forgive your old foe. You strive hard for what you desire, and for you know that death stands never more than a heartbeat away. You gain one weapon training talent of your choice, or the Leap Up talent, as well as the Hatred talent, against your foe in the war that defined your past. Choose from among orcs, Eldar, mutants, Chaos Worshippers, Imperial Guard, Imperial Navy, or Void Pirates. Okay, so, let's see. Hatred, I would say, probably Void Pirates, because that would make sense, right, as someone who was Voidborn, a really nasty battle against a particular batch of Corsairs, who are, to be fair, Eldar, usually, would have scarred them for life, and generally made, thrown them into some sort of calamity and complications. So yeah, I'm gonna say, who was that? Eldars, Orcs, Mutants, Chaos Worshippers, or Void Pirates. Alright, why don't we, since Imperial Guard and Imperial Navy put you at odds with a lot of, which, to be fair, it's not impossible that you ended up on the wrong side of a purge, or, you know, as collateral damage, and therefore hate the Imperial Guard and the Imperial Navy, I am going to try to make a more lawful character. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a D4. Yeah, we're going to... See, I'm trying to roll as much as possible because I want this card to be as random as possible, and so far it's going straight line, so that's, enemy. So who's the enemy? 1 is Orcs, 2 Eldar, 3 Chaos Worshippers, and 4 Void Pirates. I'm going to roll a d4, and whoever I get is going to be the it's going to be the enemy. Yeah, that's how we're going to play it. Whoever I roll is going to be the enemy. We're going to do a d4. Let's pop this down. I'm going to use this d4 here, because, you know. There we go. Ready? I'm going to roll it. Let's see. This one. Right. So I'm going to pull it, because I can't see. 1. Okay. Not what I was expecting, but you know what? Let's do it. Orcs. So, Hatred Orcs. Will never willingly deal with orcs. Orcs don't tend to negotiate, though, so you're pretty good on that one, but we'll see how the, it depends on how the campaign plays out. And, -10 to all, never willingly deal with orcs. -10 on all fellowship. With orcs, and with K, yes, sorry, orc is spelled with a K, this is very important. because these are not Tolkien Kinian orcs. They're slightly different. So they spell it with a K. And actually, I tried to Google orc to prove to my aunt that they weren't just a Warhammer 40k thing and that they were a common thing. You really should know what orcs are. She had no idea what orcs were. Like, I feel like that is a lack of cultural education. But, and I kept Googling it and it kept showing up. I'm like, wait a second. It turns out that orc is spelled with a C by Tolkien. I didn't even notice because I'd been reading Warhammer 40k and it's spelled with a K. So, interesting choice. Yes, orcs. Orcs. And let's see, which is, also, if given the slightest provocation, we react violently. You may take a willpower test to avert this, modified by the provocation, the consequence of succumbing to your hatred at GM discretion. So, okay, we're gonna do that. That's the enemy. So we got those going. What else we got? Alright, let's see, the origin path. Oh, right, hang on, there's one other thing that gives us, which is a, oh, shit, that's other stuff, Hand of War. So, probably by freebooters, which are orc pirates. Trust me, they're not fun to deal with. Or other orc, a Wa fleet, or something else. One weapon training talent of your choice. Okay. Or the leap up talent. I'm going to go with leap up talent. Means if you get knocked prone, you can just leap up, which is actually really useful in combat situations. And like a cool thing to have. So, hi! I think we might have new people coming. Welcome. My name is Lee, he and pronouns today, but she or they is also fine because I'm kind of fluid. It is hotter than hell here. I'm doing Warhammer 40k, Rogue Trader, which, hang on, let me bust out my dice cam so you can see. That's the book there, the core rule book. It is, I have a PDF copy. It was discontinued in 2017 because Fantasy Flight Games, lost the rights to run it, but that's alright. It's pretty cool. It takes place in the world of Warhammer 40k, which is lore dense, like really lore dense, because they needed a way for any faction could be fighting any other faction, including themselves, and have it make sense in lore. So the way they did that was creating this complicated, twisted miasma, which is fascinating. And also the term grimdark comes from the Warhammer 40k kind of catchphrase. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. So that's pretty cool. Only War is the name of the one of the other Fantasy Flight games that focuses on Imperial Guard characters. Were also pretty cool. Yeah. So you get that. Hatred Orcs. Okay, so we're rolling on what's called the origin chart, which is basically a built-in tragic backstory for your character, which leads to your career path, which then which leads to what basically that's the kind of what class. If you were playing another type RPG, the closest equivalent might be class. For example, and leads to what skills you can take and what advancements you can take. So it's actually kind of important. It changes the way you play your character and your role on the ship. Rogue Trader being the conceit of the game being that you're rogue traders going out into the edges of known space to try to find lost human civilizations from the dark age of technology, or ancient ruins, or xenospecies, or untapped natural resources to exploit, or who knows what's out there. So that's pretty cool. Childhood attacked by orcs. Okay, so if we look at the chart, bring up the chart. I'm just going to scooch a little bit so you can see. So the last two are motivation, and then you get to the actual career path. So motivation